Good morning everyone. Today we'll be taking a look at health and safety in the oil and gas industry, how it affects the industry and how to ensure its proper implementation. This presentation will be given by Eng. Alejandro Levy from Seismic Operations. We will be discussing topics such as unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, and management system with subsections of planning, performance, assessment, and improvement. Let's get into the details of each topic and get started. No greetings or thanks needed. This slide covers the importance of health and safety in the oil and gas industry. Unsafe acts and system conditions, radiation index, fire and first aids, violence at work, personal protective equipment, electrical safety, lockout and tagout, walking surfaces, ladders and scaffolds will be explored as key topics in order to ensure maximum safety in oil and gas industry settings. It is essential to be aware of the good practices to follow in these scenarios. Safety is a shared responsibility amongst all employees in the oil and gas industry, meaning everyone must look out for hazardous conditions and unsafe acts. Unsafe acts are any task or activity that could put the health and safety of workers at risk, and unsafe conditions are any conditions in the workplace that could lead to damage or injury to personnel or property. Although the oil and gas industry is inherently dangerous, if the right safety measures are put in place and all parties involved are committed to adhering to them, risks can be minimized. Unsafe acts are any actions that put a person or others at risk of injury or death. In the oil and gas industry, these represent one of the largest hazards to health and safety. People must be conscious of their behavior and how it could impact the environment and their protection. To minimize the chance of unsafe acts, personnel need to be educated about the various techniques to work safely. Training is necessary to guarantee that everyone comprehends the outcomes of unsafe acts. In the oil and gas industry, understanding workplace safety is essential in order to prevent serious injuries, illnesses, or even death. For this reason, it is the responsibility of employers to ensure that proper safety conditions are met and regularly monitored. This includes providing personal protective equipment such as helmets, goggles, protective clothing, hearing protection, and safety shoes. Furthermore, workplace safety signage should be posted to avoid confusion and accidents. Besides employers taking safety precautions, employees should also practice good safety habits to help avoid accidents and preserve resources. A management system is essential to address and manage the risks associated with the oil and gas industry effectively. It should have realistic goals, be supported by all levels of management, and comply with the standards of ISO 9001 and 14001. Such a system is necessary to ensure the health and safety of both employees and the public by eliminating or minimizing potential risks. A successful health and safety management system in the oil and gas industry should include mandatory planning. Outlining the organization's policy statement for health and safety, objectives, commitments and assigning lines of responsibility should be the first steps taken. Good communication between all levels of the organization is paramount to ensure success. It is important to regularly monitor the performance of the system with both active and reactive assessments. This will involve looking at accidents, injuries and near misses to identify any remedial or preventative actions. Additionally, it is necessary for the management to be responsible for review of the effectiveness of the health and safety management system and setting an appropriate timescale for any improvement process. Auditing plays an important role in guaranteeing the efficiency of health and safety management in the oil and gas industry. This includes defining the standards for managing health and safety, based on an analysis of potential risks and in accordance with relevant regulations. Furthermore, plans are needed in order to reach the set goals and standards. After that, progress should be measured and compared to these goals and standards, with corrective action to be taken as necessary. The auditing process can be broken down into 3 stages: plan, review and action, to ensure the health and safety of the industry. Essential preparation for emergency situations is critical. The Emergency Contingency Plan, Shelter-in-Place Plan, Administrative Closing of Offices during Emergency Situations and Occupant Emergency Plan provide procedures for preserving the safety of employees and visitors in the instance of a hazardous materials release or other emergency. It is necessary to review these plans regularly to make sure they are in accordance with the most current safety protocols. In offshore oil and gas operations, both safety and health aspects must be taken into account due to the challenging environments. This presentation will focus on emergency situations, which can be either natural or human-caused. Natural emergencies include major fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, and tornadoes, whereas human-caused emergencies may involve hazardous chemical releases or civil disturbances. For workers to act quickly and proficiently in the face of an emergency, they must be educated and ready. In the oil and gas industry, safety of the workplace is a priority and procedures must be put in place to handle emergency situations. Each office should develop emergency plans that are tailored to their unique needs, and these plans should be reviewed by the responsible head of department and health and safety manager. Regular exercises should be conducted to ensure the plans are effective, and any time a plan is used, whether it be for real or an exercise, the response should be documented and reviewed. This will make it possible to identify areas for improvement and adjust accordingly. It is of the utmost importance to take safety seriously. Employees in the oil and gas industry must be supplied with necessary personal protective equipment, known as PPE, to create a barrier between them and workplace hazards. Such equipment is critical for maintaining worker safety. It must be used correctly whenever it is necessary in order to reduce the risk of occupational injuries and illnesses. Employees within the oil and gas industry should be provided with the necessary protective equipment. They should be trained in correctly using, caring for and cleaning of their personal protective equipment, PPE. Manager and section heads should ensure that any defective or damaged equipment is taken out of service. Supervisors should ensure that the PPE program elements are being followed and employees are using and caring for the PPE, as well as disposing and cleaning any contaminated equipment. In the oil and gas industry, the use of personal protective equipment, PPE, can be a life-saving measure. This can include safety glasses, safety shoes, and hard hats, and it is important to know when they should be worn. When conducting field activities like inspections and audits, the HOD and/or HSE manager should first assess the need for PPE and what kind should be worn. If a hazardous condition is encountered, the HSE employee should inform the manager and HOD before putting on the necessary PPE and proceeding. We will discuss the significance of personal protective equipment training and its components. Employees need to be aware when to use PPE, as well as which PPE is needed and how to correctly use it, which includes the correct way of putting it on, taking it off, and adjusting it. Additionally, they must be aware of the restrictions of PPE, as well as how to look after, dispense of, and how long it is likely to last. Plus, remember to retrain employees if they are not using PPE properly or if there are shifts in the PPE policy or equipment. In the oil and gas industry, electrical hazards are a threat to employees. To protect them, employers must be familiar with flash hazard analysis, flash protection boundaries, and the use of personal protective equipment, PPE. To be adequately prepared, employees must be qualified and trained on the electrical equipment they will use, as well as how to safely use test equipment and identify hazards. Employees must adhere to the safety requirements applicable to the oil and gas industry, such as attending electrical safe work practices training, being able to identify potential electrical hazards, and being familiar with the use and dangers of electrical test equipment. Furthermore, they must report any inspection issues to the responsible manager if they are uncertain about their qualifications or the equipment necessary to do the inspection. It is essential for the safety of all parties involved that employees comply with these requirements. Today's topic is the control of hazardous energy sources in the oil and gas industry. By hazardous energy sources, we mean electrical, mechanical, or material systems in which an inadvertent or unintended release of movement or flow could result in injury to employees. As such, it is essential to use a lockout procedure to ensure that machines or equipment being inspected are isolated from all potentially hazardous energy sources and locked out before employees perform any activity involving unexpected energizing, startup, or release of stored energy. Lockouts can only be applied by authorized personnel and must be approved by the HSE advisor. If equipment cannot be safely locked out, then inspection procedures that require contact with the hazardous equipment must not to be performed. Safety is paramount in the oil and gas industry, so familiarizing oneself with the lockout-tagout procedure is essential. Lockout-tagout is a safety procedure that requires the safe isolation of energy sources and equipment in order to prevent accidental activation or release of energy. It involves the use of a lockout device, such as manual breakers, disconnect switches, or valves, to physically prevent energy from being released. It also requires the use of a tagout device, such as a key or combination lock, to keep the energy isolating device in a safe position and prevent the equipment from being operated until the tagout device is removed. A tag should also be attached to indicate that the equipment being controlled is not to be operated. Understand the lockout-tagout procedure in order to keep safe in the oil and gas industry. It is essential to follow the employer's lockout program before beginning any task involving a machine or equipment. This program outlines precise instructions on how to safely control the associated energy sources. If any of the energy sources do not comply with safety standards, the authorized employee should not proceed with the lockout until the issues are addressed. Any potential hazards should be documented and any necessary control measures should be identified. After personnel are not exposed to any hazards, the employee should then verify the lockout by operating any buttons or other controls to ensure the equipment is safe to work on. Finally, the time of lockout should be logged to ensure it is not longer than necessary for safety. Safety should always be the top priority when using ladders on work sites. Before each use, ladders should be inspected for any defects or signs of wear, and if found, they should be removed from use and tagged, "Do not use." Metal ladders should never be used when they could come into contact with electrical conductors, and stepladders should never be used as a brace or support for a plank. Ladders should be securely and firmly placed before climbing, and the feet should always be on a firm surface. Unless designed for multiple users, only one person should be on the ladder at any given time, and leaning to the side should always be avoided. If necessary, other solutions can be used to safely undertake the task. In the oil and gas industry, health and safety are of paramount importance. All employees must be aware of the safety protocols and adhere to them in order to keep themselves and their team members safe. In the case of fall exposure, employees must assess and determine whether to use a fall restraint system or a personal fall arrest system. Fall restraint is preferred as it prevents the employee from falling any distance. The anchor point of a fall restraint system must be strong enough to withstand a 3,000-pound load with a safety factor of 2. An understanding of the proper safety protocols is essential to keeping employees safe. Safety of workers in the oil and gas industry is a priority. Technology can help streamline processes, but it is critical to make certain that any used equipment is suitable for the task. Thus, all hardware should be thoroughly inspected and suitable components, such as compatible PFAs and PFRS components, full-body harnesses and connecting gear must be chosen. Additionally, when existing anchor points are utilized, they must be compatible with the system in use. By taking these precautions, we can ensure safety of personnel in the oil and gas sector. Employees should always show each other due dignity and respect. This is a necessary element for fostering an atmosphere that enables us to collaborate efficiently, exchange ideas, and make use of the enhanced worldwide access to data that technology has brought about. Answer. The science of ergonomics seeks to make sure that jobs are designed to conform to the physical abilities and limitations of people. It involves assessing risk factors in the workplace that can lead to ergonomic injuries and illnesses, and implementing administrative or engineering controls to reduce the chances of such issues arising. Administrative controls involve changing the way a job is assigned, while engineering controls involve physical changes to a job, such as redesigning workstations, tools, equipment and materials, to remove or lessen ergonomic hazards. Examples of ergonomic risk factors are forceful exertion, repetition, awkward or static postures, and exposure to strain and vibration. Ergonomic injuries and illnesses occur to muscles, nerves, tendons, ligaments, joints, and cartilage or spinal discs, though this does not include injuries from slips, trips, and falls. Responsibilities for vehicular operations in the oil and gas industry are shared between health, safety and environmental (HSE) managers and drivers. Mechanics are responsible for ensuring that the vehicles are kept in good repair and that inspection records are filed. All vehicles must be equipped with basic safety provisions such as a spare tire, jack, fire extinguisher, first aid kit and accident reporting kit. HSE managers must ensure that vehicles are periodically inspected. Drivers must remember to use company vehicles only for official business, to wear seat belts and not to smoke in the vehicle. They must also make sure to follow all traffic laws and not to use a handheld device while driving. Everyone in the oil and gas industry must be aware of the regulations and procedures for using motor vehicles. Any accidents involving motor vehicles should be reported to the area director, unit manager, or their designee, and the incident and hazard reporting worksheet must be completed. Employees must obey state regulations and drive responsibly. Everyone must wear a seatbelt. Operating a motor vehicle is strictly prohibited if an employee is impaired by alcohol, prescription drugs, or even over-the-counter medications, or too tired to drive. An assessment of injuries sustained by an employee, contractor or in an incident will be done by a designated first aid responder to decide if further treatment is necessary. If that is the case, the employee will be taken to a suitable facility and first aid supplies will be provided. Employees providing first aid and/or CPR as part of their job must report it to their unit manager for evaluation and follow-up, so as to ensure the employee's safety. Today we are discussing the importance of health and safety in the oil and gas industry. To ensure safety for everyone, all offices with labs where employees are potentially exposed to corrosive liquids are required to have eyewash facilities. Additionally, first aid kits need to be inspected at least quarterly and restocked as needed. By taking these simple steps, we can help ensure our workers are safe and secure. In the oil and gas industry, strict observance of health and safety regulations is paramount to protect the environment and people working in it. There are 4 categories of fire extinguishers that need to be taken into consideration. Ordinary combustible materials such as paper, wood and plastics, flammable or combustible liquids like gasoline, kerosene, grease and oil, electrical equipment including appliances, wiring, circuit breakers and outlets, and combustible metals like magnesium and potassium. Each type of fire extinguisher has its own specific instructions and symbols. It is important to acquaint oneself with the symbols and read the instructions carefully before using any type of fire extinguisher. Oil and gas industry is an integral part of the global economy. It brings with it a number of health and safety challenges. From taking all necessary precautions while working with hazardous materials to making sure the work environment is safe, it is important to acknowledge and tackle these issues to ensure that accidents and injuries can be prevented. This presentation will provide an overview of the current state of health and safety within the industry, outline the methods to ensure a safe workplace, and highlight the importance of taking proactive measures such as training and hazard assessment. It is hoped that this presentation will give a better insight into the significance of health and safety in the oil and gas industry.